So before we discuss about the update and delete, we shall first see how we can use PHP to retrieve the details from our tables. So in the previous session we had created this table called as shopping, and in this shopping table we have inserted some values by using PHP. Now if I want this information to be displayed in a web page or in a HTML page, then how we can actually do that? Let us have a look into it. So in order to retrieve the details, once again we need to establish the connection between our PHP and MySQL. Okay, so I've already created a page called as retrieve details.php. So in this page we are going to first establish the connection between our database and the PHP, and the code is as usual the same. So I'll just copy paste the same content. So as you already know, we need to give server name, the username, the password, and the database name. The database name is shopping, and the password I have given is root. Username is root and password is set to nothing. Of course, server name is localhost. So we'll try to connect to the database by using MySQL and by giving the parameters that are server name, username, password, and database name. So once the MySQL connects to our database, then we will get a message saying connected to the database, otherwise we will get a failed message. So let us run this first. So let me run this retrieve details.php. So now it is showing that it is now connected to the database. So once it is connected to the database, what is the next task? So now we have to execute a query, but this time not to insert the values into the database, but this time it is to retrieve the values from the database. Okay, so let us first write a query to retrieve the values from the database. So what is the query that we are supposed to write? So let me assume that I am going to create a query string in a variable called as query. So which query I am supposed to write down? So how do we retrieve the values from the database? So that's the next question. Okay, so when I go to SQL here, and as you can observe here, if I look into this, so it says select star from purchase info. Okay, let me just leave this where 1. Okay, so let's select star from purchase info. So if I click on go, then you can see that it is giving me the complete details of the table. What if I want to specifically retrieve a particular entry? For example, what if I want to retrieve the details of the purchase whose purchase ID is 1? So in that case I need to change my query. Okay, so how do I change my query? So I will write select star from purchase info, where purchase underscore ID is equal to, which is the value I want? I want 1, only 1 to be retrieved. So now I will click on go. Now as you can observe, instead of getting all the values from the table, I am simply getting only one value from the table, which is purchase ID 1. Okay, so like this, by putting this condition in the where clause, we can retrieve a specific value. Okay, but this time we do not want to retrieve a specific value. Let us assume that we want to retrieve all the details from the table. Okay, like this, just like how it is showing in MySQL, I want this information to be displayed in the PHP or the HTML page. So how do we do that? So first of all, let us prepare the query. So what is a query? So as usual, it is select star from purchase info, right? So we have copied the query. I'll copy the same thing down. So select star from purchase info, but this time I am not using any condition. I want all the information to be displayed. So this is the query that we are going to use, or that we are going to run when we want to retrieve all the details from our table. Okay, now this query has to be executed. So how do we execute this particular query? Okay, so to execute this particular query, as usual, we will use our connection and we will execute the query on that particular connection. So how do we do that? So I'm going to use connection, okay, arrow query. So I'll just change this to SQL. So I'll change the name of the variable to SQL. So on this connection, we are executing the query which is stored in SQL currently, which is select star from purchase info. Okay, and the result will be stored in this $result, or this particular variable called as result. Okay, now if I have got any values retrieved, or if the query has executed properly, then I know that the details will be retrieved. Okay, so in that case, the number of rows, right? So how many rows did I get? For example, when I run this query, how many rows I have got? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So totally 6 rows have been retrieved. So when I gave purchase ID is equal to 1, how many rows were retrieved? 1 row was retrieved. Okay. Now what if I don't, when I run the query, I don't get any information. Okay, like for example, if I am looking for a purchase ID which is equal to 10, of course it is not there. So when I run this query, I will get no row selected. So if the query executes properly, you will get 1 or more rows. So if the query does not retrieve any value, then you will get 0 rows. Okay, so this is how I will know that my query has executed properly. So that's why if the result is if the number of rows is greater than 0, okay, then what do I know? I know that some value has been retrieved. So otherwise, what? Otherwise I already know that no values have been retrieved. So we can simply put a message saying that, I'll use echo here, saying that 0 rows returned. Okay, means I have got nothing to select. 0 rows. Okay, so I'll just run and show whether it will give us. So let us check whether it more than 1 rows is retrieved. Okay, so let us check this out. So I'll run this again. So the query is select star from purchase info. So as you can observe, it is connected to database and it is showing that it has retrieved more than 1 row. Okay, now I'll change the query a little bit. Okay, let's give the same query which we had used to retrieve the the 0 rows. Okay, so I'll give purchase ID is equal to 10. So now let us check. So as you can observe, it has returned 0 rows. So when it has returned 0 rows, we need not worry about it. But if it has returned more than 1 row, okay, which was the previous case, then what we are supposed to do? Okay, so how we are supposed to retrieve the rest of the information? Okay, so whatever is there in $result, we have to extract it one by one. So we have got multiple rows as a result. So we are supposed to extract the result one by one, and for that we will use the following code. Okay, so if $rows is greater than 1, so I'll just use this. So this is the statement that we are supposed to use. So the statement is, so because I have got more than 1 row, I will be fetching the information one after the other. So means I will fetch first row, okay, then I will fetch second row, then I have to fetch third row, so on and so forth. So obviously I am doing the same task again and again. So what construct we are going to use in order to do some task again and again? Of course we are going to make use of some looping structure. Okay, so here I am going to make use of while statement, right? So while this is true, okay, so whatever we have stored in the result, okay, we are going to use fetch underscore association function and fetch one of the row at a time, okay, and that will be stored in $row as a variable. Okay, so it will be stored in $row as a variable, and now we are going to use that variable to display one row, and of course because it's a looping structure, it will fetch the second row second time and it will display the second row, so on and so forth, until there are no more rows to fetch. When in that case this condition is going to become false and our control is going to come out of the while loop. Okay, now how do we access this value that is present? So in order to access the value, so we need to know what are the rows present. So what are the rows present here? So the rows present here are, okay, we have got purchase ID, first name, last name, shirt type and shirt underscore size. So we will have the values fetched accordingly. Okay, so for example here, so $row of, what is the first one? First one is purchase underscore ID. So this will give me all the purchase ID information. Okay, similarly, where will the second, what will the first name be stored? First name will be present in $row first name. Okay, similarly dollar row last name, right? Similarly dollar row of shirt underscore type, right? So shirt underscore type. Okay, we need to give the same name, shirt underscore type, and dollar row shirt underscore size, shirt underscore size. So these are the variables. Okay, so when it has fetched the first row, so it will print out the first row attribute purchase ID, first row attribute first name, first row attribute last name, then shirt type and shirt size. Okay, so of course here these are the variables, we need to print it out. So what I will do is I will use echo to print the details. Okay, so I'll just use echo to print the details. So this will give me the first row in my table. Okay, so of course I need to print the other details in the next row. So what I will do is I'll use a BR here to end. Okay, so let us see what happens. Say some syntax mistake. Okay, line number 29. Okay, so I need to give semicolon, I forgot that, sorry. Right, so now let us see. Okay, I believe shirt size. Okay, I think shirt underscore type and shirt underscore size. Okay, so S is small, so we need to give small s. Okay, so here whatever the name of the attribute is in the database, the same thing you need to provide. So now let us see whether it works or not. As you can see, I have almost got all the values here. Okay, so for example 1 ABC XYZ, but it's not clear, it's very compact. So just to differentiate that, what I will do is I will use /t, okay, which will give a tab here, and will copy the same. Okay, now we can observe that we have got some spaces in and around, and we have this information. Okay, so the information has been retrieved from the table, but of course it's not visually appealing. So what we can do is we can use a table in order to put the information in a proper format. Okay, so we'll use PHP again for that. So let me do the same. So here what I will do is I will echo table. Okay, so I'll put border is equal to 1, because as we know it will give us a clear border, right? And we need a header also for the table, so we'll just display the header. Okay, so I will create a table row, and this table row is going to have a header. Okay, so this will be a header. So how do you create a header? So instead of TD, I'm going to make use of TH. So TH stands for table header. So we are going to use that. So how many rows, how many columns are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 columns are there. So for those 5 columns I need 5 TH. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So in between I'm going to write what it is I'm displaying. So first one is purchase ID. Second one, in between the TH and the /TH is the first name. Then we have got last name. Okay, then we have got shirt type. Okay, then we have last one, which is shirt size. Alright, so we have got this displayed. Okay, so after the while loop I will have to close the table tag. So I'll give /table, right? So let us see what happened now. So sorry, 43. So I need to close semicolon. Right? So as you can observe here, I have got the table, but the data is not being displayed inside the table. Okay, so now I need to make some modifications in my code so that I display the contents of the table. Okay, so what I will do is I will add the table row here, right, tr table row, and this entire thing has to be present within that row, right. So slash tr here. Okay, so slash tr. So within this table row I have got this. So this is my first column, right. So this is my first column. So what I will do is, so I will also add a td here. So I'll also add a td here, right. Of course, then it will display the purchase ID. So once the purchase ID has been displayed, we will end this column, okay, which is slash td. Now I need to start one more column, so it is td again. So after that, first name will be displayed. So once again I need to end that column, right. Then I need to end that column, then I need to end this column, okay, then I need to end this column, right. So td slash td, right, and I believe that is the last one. So we have got tr ended. Okay, so now we shall save and run the file and see what happens. Okay, 35, there is an error. Okay, sorry, it's echo. Okay, now you can see that the values have been displayed in the table. Okay, so this is one way to retrieve the values from the database. So if I change the query now, for example here, what if I change the query from select star from purchase info. Now I'll put a condition where purchase underscore ID is equal to 1. Okay, so we already know that there is 1 purchase ID. So as you can observe, only 1 is displayed. So now if I change the purchase ID to 10, you know that it does not have any value. So it says 0 rows returned. So if I change the query to maybe 6 is present. So now you can see that only 6 information has been retrieved. So this is how we can use PHP to retrieve the data from the tables that has been stored in MySQL. Okay. Now using this logic, we shall implement our update and delete operation. Now the reason is because we can update any of the attribute values except the primary key. Okay, like for example in this case, let me assume that the purchase ID is the primary key. So in that case, without updating purchase ID, I can modify any other information. So first of all, what information is present in the table I need to know, and after that I may have to use that information to make the changes, either to perform the update or to perform the delete. Okay, so we'll use this logic of retrieving the data from the database in order to perform the update and the delete operations. Okay, and that we shall see in the next part.